on the heels of the discussion we've been having about the Lakers and that whole disaster and LeBron, saying I don't have any control over the roster and them missing the playoffs altogether and just the injuries and age and all the other things that are backed up. If you're the Lakers as an organization, and you're not one of these doormat organizations that you're desperate to be relevant and you're desperate for this. Like, you are one of the most prestigious organizations in all of sports. Why don't you grow a pair of balls and trade him? Trade him. Be the first organization that says, we're done with this crap. We're not winning with you. Like, grow a pair of balls and trade LeBron James. You can still get a bunch in return and then start moving forward and get your organization back. Take back your roster and your organization. Stop turning it over to some guy who already chased out one coach. And then the Luke Walton experiment was a mess as well, too. Every move that he's made, Anthony Davis has been damaged goods. Russell Westbrook didn't work. There were role players that are no longer with the team that they probably could have used this year that aren't a part of the organization now. Take back your team. Take back your pride. Grow a pair and trade him. That easy. I don't understand. Why is that not on the table?
I mean, look, maybe you feel like that should be on the table. Rob Pelinka needs to take more responsibility for what's happened the past couple of seasons. Like, that's the reality of this, is if you're a frustrated Lakers fan and you're frustrated by this roster, some of the pieces of it, their performance, he's the next guy in line. Now, and if you want to blame Frank Vogel for not being able to help these guys put it all together and make it work, all right, that's one thing. You moved on from him. But the next person's Rob Pelinka. And I don't understand why he's not getting more flack, why people aren't pushing more for him, to lose his job. But, again, that's those decisions, maybe LeBron's in on those decisions too, as far as who he thinks should stick around or who he thinks should be fired. But I'm not calling for him to get traded. I think you don't think the Lakers, with all their history of this storied franchise, you don't think they want to have LeBron James on their roster when he passes Wilt Chamberlain?
I don't think that the Lakers need it. I really don't. I think that's great for another team.
They don't need it, but, you'd rather let him go do that somewhere else?
Yeah, I don't think they think in those terms. I really don't. And I don't think they should think in those terms. I really don't. This is the Lakers. They've got how many titles? This is an organization that's one of the most prestigious in sports. They don't need a guy to break a record on their team to have that much of an impact. I think they're way past that.
They need a guy to put asses in the seats, though. And if you're going to let LeBron go, you're not just going to have people coming to watch the Lakers play just because they're the Lakers. It's not going to be packed out a who's who of people in that arena to just see the Lakers play. Like, it's one thing that they're bad and they're not performing up to the level they're supposed to, but the name LeBron James still is more than enough value. Russell Westbrook is still with LeBron James. Carmelo Anthony is still enough star power connected to those names with LeBron James to fill that place up. So if you're going to let LeBron James go, most likely the anyone that would be of the level name-wise, as a new star in this league, up and emerging, developing stars, the next generation of stars, you're not going to get them there. Like, I don't know who's going. Like, you're not going to get Embiid. And I don't know that even makes it better. You're not going to get Giannis. You're not going to get Morant. You're not going to get the kid Booker. You're not going to get Trey. And to be honest with you, in comparison, most of those guys they pale in comparison to a LeBron James. Like, you're not going to find the perfect storm of a player with their popularity and their draw like LeBron James. It just is what it is, whether you like him or not, whether you think he's the best ever or not. That just is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, he's obviously the best ever in this era, as far as the players that have played in the past 2 decades. I think it's easy to say that. Look at the 3 years, though, after Kobe Bryant left the Lakers. I mean, besides just abysmal performance, I mean, they weren't a winning organization or franchise. Those were some darker years than maybe people want to admit.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about doing. That's like, because to LaVar's point, who's going to want to come back in and save the mess that has been created? I don't foresee a path forward with them making a move like that when they just got out of the dark ages, if you will, of 3 years of losing basketball where they didn't have that star player necessarily. And they're not going to be able to draw people back into the seats. And look at when LeBron first got there, granted, bubble season, bubble boy year, they still won it. They're not that far removed from it. So I have a hard time believing you make that move and it's not career suicide for Rob Pelinka or whoever wants to take responsibility for that.